Welcome to a new year of aviation. As we enter into 2025, let's kick it off with probably the most important topic of all, getting your aircraft project completed and final inspected by the FAA. So here is sort of a how-to with Herman. All right, everybody, Happy New Year. Welcome back to some more original aviation content. I am back here with Herman to discuss, I see you guys, a lot of people participated this year in the 31-day build challenge, so I figured it'd be very timely to share what is the next step, what is the final step of getting your aircraft completed, and that is final inspection and all the FAA paperwork and all that stuff. So Herman and I are going to talk shop about that right now. So Herman, we've got an ongoing builder assist going on in the background with Zenith, and they are nearly ready for their final inspection, first flight, and all that kind of stuff. So let's kind of begin with some of the paperwork required, and we'll walk around some of the plane and see some areas that you would, I guess, inspect before final inspection.
Yeah, so first of all, Happy New Year to you and all of the viewers. So thanks for coming back and work on this and talk about this, because there's a lot of things not known. But I would suggest that if not bought yet, start off with the EAA Home Builders Step-by-Step Certification Guide. If you're not an EAA member, sign up as a member, and the EAA sells this package. It was $20 when I bought them. I have them standard in stock for the builders so that they can prepare the paperwork. So you need to get this package. It has a checklist what to do, and it has all the paperwork. You need a bill of sale from your kit manufacturer. That's, in this case, we do a lot of Zenith, so you call Zenith, and then Joyce or Caitlin, they sell you a kit bill of sale, which need to be notarized, and there is a whole checklist. I laid them out here with all the paperwork that need to be done. And first of all, you need to get your registration from the FAA.
First step.
First step, you need to get your registration, which is either including the N number, or if you already found your N number you like years ago, you can reserve that, but that is not a registration. It's just the N number which sits there, and you pay $5 every year to keep it active.
Okay.
And the registration is, you have to send that in with a notarized form with the kit bill of sale, and then you get your white registration card, and that is needed before you even can call your DER out.
Okay, so step one, you have your registration as far as your FAA tail number reserved, but then that has to turn into an actual registration.
Exactly.
All right.
And that registration will be open, and then when you can see here, this is the contents of the package. They have all the step-by-step information, what you need to do, because this is the form. It's an application for an airworthiness certificate. So that is when you have your registration, when you have done your weight and balance, your fuel flow test, a condition inspection form, and then you got your program letter done. Then you fill out your airworthiness certificate application. That's when you can call your DAR or schedule an inspection. Once everything is known and registered with the FAA.
So essentially you don't call them until all the paperwork is finished?
Yes, all the paperwork need to be finished, and they explain that clearly in that step-by-step certification guide. That is a great step-by-step guide how to go through it. And here, as part of my support, I also have examples from previous ones we did. So sure. That's the good thing that I help my
a cheat sheet to kind of look off of how to fill out and what we did in this situation or whatnot.
Yeah. And then once you got all of that, and the DAR, he checks with you. It's an ongoing communication, but it's not that you just make a phone call and he will be out next week, but he makes sure that the paperwork is done, because that's the main part of the inspection is paperwork. And of course you need to stay up with your build manual, that you have made some pictures. You don't have to have 3,500 pictures, but 5 pictures won't do it either. You know, you have to
Something to show your involvement in the process, obviously.
It's amateur, it's experimental amateur build, so you are the amateur builder, so you don't have to do all the work.
Being done this several times now, do you think it is an absolute that you do have pictures, or is a logbook enough, or they want a mixture of both these days?
Do a mixture of both. Okay. Yeah, I've seen people who had only 50 pictures or less, but a description of the work. And when you build them, in this case, we have the new Super Duties, they have sign-off sheets. So you can even make notes on your drawing and sign it off with the date when you did it. Okay. But we mostly make pictures, and you make a nice scrapbook online.
Which is what we're probably going to be doing anyway, to capture and show off to our family later on.
And you don't have to be the first builder. If you buy a project which is started by somebody else, it was still an amateur.
And that would be the bill of sale from that third party?
The bill of sale from that, there has to be a paper trail from the kit manufacturer until when you want to register it. Okay. But also...
And the manufacturer, let's say Zenith or Sonics or somebody like that, Vans, it still is going to have either a plans number or a build number. Correct. So you can call them back to get that original number.
And they all help with that. They are great, because that's the way to success, is help the builder to get the plane flying, because that's in the end what we call it.
So backing up for just a second, I'm sure this is going to change throughout the years or whatnot, but it doesn't cost much to get your N number reserved.
No.
Like $5 or something like that. Then to actually register it, what does that cost, and then what does it cost for DAR?
The registration is, that's a good question. I think it's free. Not even sure.
The DAR isn't.
But no, the DAR isn't. The DAR is on. The DAR is a designated airworthiness representative. You can also invite the FAA. They come out for free, but it might take you 6 months.
Okay, so you have the option either or.
Yeah, you can invite the FAA, and mostly when they do a great job. They mostly come with either 2 or 3 people. They always have interns who want to study, and the benefit, and let's split it up. If you do the FAA, they come out, and they also give you the repairman certificate. If you fill out the...
Right then and there?
Yes.
And the DAR has to probably apply for that for you.
If you get the DAR, he gives you the airworthiness certificate, and then you have to make an appointment with the FSDO, go there with your logbook, with all your stories, with your drawings from the plane, and they do an interview with you, and they give you the repairman certificate afterwards.
So part of the benefit of having the FAA come out and wait for me, it's kind of like more of a ceremonial thing where you right then and there get awarded.
Yes.
That. Okay.
Yes, and they are great to work with. I have inspectors here once in a while for... I don't want to say other things, but recently for my AMP I had to be interviewed by an FAA inspector, and they are just normal people like you and I are, but when they come out they don't charge you. But as I said, you might need more time to wait. Sure. The DAR mostly is available within 1 or 2 weeks.
And you're going to look more of like what, $500 to $1,000, depending on where you're at?
Close to $1,000 plus the travel costs.
Plus travel.
So normally it ends up between $1,100 and $1,200.
And good to know.
Yeah, that is, but for that, my DAR comes from Leesburg, so easier scheduling.
Sure.
So, and sometimes if you say FAA, we talk government, and people get all nervous, say, oh my goodness, now we got Big Brother watching into it. Well, the DAR does the same. But they all work via standardized procedure. The FAA will do the same as the DAR does.
All right, so we're gonna roll into some more things, walking around the airplane, of some of the last minute things you need to have completed on your aircraft before actually calling the DAR. So let's take a walk over to the plane.
Okay.
Dynon Avionics at Dynon.com, offering everything from state-of-the-art glass cockpit options to advanced control modules that power and control your entire aircraft. Gratia Aero Group at GratiaAero.com, proudly representing these best-in-class brands for experimental general aviation: Sherwings, BD Aviation, and MW Fly. Visit us online at ExperimentalAircraftChannel.com for all things DIY aviation, and consider supporting us on our Patreon page to help us bring you more original aviation content. All right, Herman, so let's roll right into like a walk around. I guess you would do this with your customer, but you would do this as an individual on your own aircraft as far as like what to look for before you call it DAR.
So it's either we have different type of customers. Some of them they want a lot of support. Others they build on their own much better. But for the final inspection, I go through it like I would be the DAR to make sure, because we have 100% passing rate. So that's why you get some assistance with it. With the tail, we start that your deflections need to be as in the plans from Zenith in this case. We have a Zenith cruiser here, so you need to have your rudder deflection, your elevator deflection, also your trim. What is also very important is that you operate your trim knob, that your trim tab goes the right way up and down. Our DAR is checking that. So
because that could be reversed. We're just reversing the wires.
Wouldn't be the first time.
And then deflection, you mean as far as degree angle, correct?
But it goes up and down. Yeah, the preset, the angles of the movement. Yes. Also the rudder stops and also the elevator stops need to be in there. Some of them, like here for the elevator, you have to do that before you assemble it. So you better do it timely. Here we have the cable adjustment and also the proper safety wiring of the adjustment of the turnbuckles need to be in order. Here you can see we left off the heat shrink. We do not want to heat shrink the crimps because the inspector wants to see if you did a proper crimp for your cable, for your turnbuckle cables.
Okay.
Tail number, not on here. The cruiser is a great plane to put it on the fin. If you have a STOL, and I know that there are many people out there who pass their inspection, but they have the end number on the rudder, which is legally not allowed. The rudder is not a airframe part. The rudder is a
control surface.
It's a control surface. Thank you. If you look in the FAR, the end number need to be on the airframe, but not everybody pays attention. My DAR does. So pay attention to that. For especially if you've got a flying rudder, just put it on the side of the fuselage. So that is a
little keynote there.
That is a keynote. Yes.
Depends on what DAR you get, but you might be removing. And if you painted it, what then? You have to add it on the fuselage?
Yeah, so I can imagine if you have a DAR who is willing to work with you, he lets them tape it off, and then you can quickly make from some insulation tape, you can make a new number temporarily. But he wants to have a picture that is gone and put it on there. Okay. So it's very important. But as I said, some DARs, they do not catch it, and don't ask me how we found out. He didn't fail, so it's still 100% passing grade, but we had to change it. And yeah, that was after we did several where the number was on the rudder and was never a problem. So you got your antennas. We got a light here. If you have lights on there, they need to work. Even if it's not needed, if you don't need lights on your plane, if you put them on, it needs to work. Landing gear, brakes, it's a general inspection. Here the flaperons, as Zenith has them, elevator, flaps, everything need to be work. As I said earlier, the plane needs to be ready to fly. All the panels and the cowling need to be off, but technically if he says it's okay, put on everything.
It would be ready to go flying right then and there.
Ready to go fly. Yes.
Okay,
yes. No halfway finished plane, because that's not going to work.
No clecos left holding things together before you go flying.
Let's not do that. No. So as I said, inspection panels off. Interior, your instrument panel need to be working. Our DAR makes a video while you're starting the engine. He checks all the parameters from all the instruments. So your temperature gauge, your fuel sensors, EGTs, everything need to be working. Before he comes out, you have done a condition inspection. So you have to have a filled out condition inspection checklist. That means that you went over all the particular components. The EAA certification guides gives you a condition inspection checklist. It's a general inspection checklist. It's not that it's model specific or type specific. As long as it comes straight out of the 4313, so as long as you fill that out, means that you inspected it and the plane is safe for operation. All the switches need to be labeled. Everything on the panel needs to be labeled proper, what it is, on and off position. We have the ELT antenna, which also means that your ELT need to be in working operating position. You have to have your test in the logbook also, with the date that you did it. The battery, of course, need to be in there with the expiration date. If you got a remote panel, the panel needs to be working. The ACK ELTs, which is the brand of the orange ELT, have a separate battery in the panel. It's been forgotten sometimes with people, but there is a little battery in the button panel, which is the control panel, and there is also an annunciator. An orange block also has a separate battery. So there are three batteries in the ACK
style
ELT.
of ELT.
Yeah. Also, don't reverse the control cables, which is common sense, but you don't know. You know that whatever moves, that it moves the way it's supposed to have to move. Engine. There is a fuel flow checklist in your certification package, so you have to do fuel flow. How much fuel are you actually feeding to the pump? You do that in level flight, and you do it also with the tail down in takeoff, so to make sure that you got enough fuel flow into your fuel pump, into your gascolator and your engine. Of course, this is also technical. You want to do a proper installation with fire sleeving, having, you see, it comes back, Adel clamps. I love Adel clamps, so we have a ton of Adel clamps on here. I also love the grip lock ties. We do a lot with the grip lock ties, with the silicone lined ties. This is not completely done because we are ready with the final install of the operating for the carburetors. You run your engine, you set your prop pitch, you check your static RPM, wide open throttle. This is all, again, it's ready to fly. And sometimes we already did first taxi tests because as long as you didn't get off the ground, it's okay. You can taxi it around as much as you want. So break in your brake, that's a test flight thing, but you have to break in your new brakes because the pads have to settle with the brake disc.
One question I had, and it's been talked about a little bit on different forums or on Facebook groups, is any hardware that is forward of the firewall. It's been argued that these lock nuts with the nylon, this is per plan, per Zenith, but others have argued that because the nylon, it's not fireproof, then it should be replaced with castle nuts. I think it's castellated nuts.
Yeah.
Has anybody in BR given any issue with that? Because it's from the plans?
You got metal lock nuts. That is what people argue about, to nylon lock nuts. If it's per plans, then there is no problem at all. If it's getting close to the exhaust, we do metal lock nuts, no nylon. But if you're getting away from the firewall and your nylon lock nut starts melting, you got different issues than, and I made that comment before. I think the nylon, once they start melting, as I said, you got a big problem going on. So yes, and that is a discussion. It has to do with opinions and personal. There is not really a written rule that you cannot use them, but if they are close to the proximity, like to an exhaust where it's getting really hot, yes, you want to stay away from the nylon nuts, that's for sure. One thing not to forget is that there has to be a clearly visible decal which says experimental on here, or some people do them on both sides in the cabin, but we, for Zenith, we mostly do it here on the rear cabin pass-through. It says experimental. There is a sticker in your package, but sometimes it's too big. You might have to make a little smaller one. And also it has to be on the panel. There need to be a passenger warning, because everybody needs to know that those things are absolutely safe to fly.
Let everybody know it was amateur built and safe to fly.
Yes, yes, but it's not a standardized. It's not a standard plane. So yeah, they got. But that placard. You made pictures of that. It's in there, so you can stick that on. But people, they make their own engraved versions of it. So that's what has to be on there too.
All right, so there's kind of a general overview of what is required to get to the final inspection process. And as Herman has mentioned, of course, he does this for a living. So if you are his customer, he goes ahead and presents this nice work table out with all the paperwork presented for you and the DAR inspector or the FAA inspector. But if you were doing this yourself, you would do this pretty much the exact same way to make it easy for the inspector.
Yeah, don't make a mess. Have them all laid out based on there is a program checklist, and if you go by the checklist point for point, you can just lay it out. Get a nice
so you can
foldable
go sequentially
table.
through
Yes,
it.
yes. And it also means that you have to have a weight and balance made out. You also make a weight and balance. It's the FAA weight and balance. You also make a flight test weight and balance with you as a test pilot. We get back to that later. There is the condition inspection form I talked about, which is it says pass or fail. So it's very straightforward. You just have to be able to go through it and answer those questions correctly. And the fuel flow test. This form is all in the registration package what you buy from the FAA. So it will be like you and I talking, but you get the nerves the night before.
Okay.
And, you know, because somebody comes to inspect your work. You've been working on this hopefully for
years.
For years, hopefully not too long, but yeah, it is an exciting and somewhat also a nerve-wracking experience for some. But when you do all your work, you build it by the plans, you do a great job, then there is nothing to be afraid of. And the inspectors I've known, even as I said before, the FAA inspectors themselves, just normal human beings, so there is no reason to be nervous, but it happens.
Sure.
Do I have it myself if I have to? Yeah, I have it myself too so we all normal human beings. So, but if you've done your checklist, there's no reason to be nervous. And don't hide anything. And also, if you mess something up, you should fix it before you call the guy out.
Right.
Because they have done so many. If you start trying to make something up or distract them, don't do that. And then it's not worth it either, because you're going to fly it, so you don't want to mess with.
Yeah, exactly.
Safety.
The whole point of this, right, is really for safety. It's an airplane.
Yeah.
It is actually a viable airplane, and it's safe.
And
so if they do see something, you'd rather kind of have them spell it out, because you don't want to find out in the air later because you missed it.
Exactly. And you bring later on, you take your family up. You don't want. You cannot take any risk with safety. And this is the program letter which spells it all out, what you have done. You also need to think about a test flying area, but that's a little later, because first of all it need to be signed
airworthy,
off,
yeah.
airworthy, and then we go into flight testing. But part of the airworthiness inspection is also determining where you're going to fly it. The test flight area is somewhat negotiable. You talk with your inspector about it, what you would like to have. You have to do some pre-planning. We do it here. We are in Lake City, Florida, which is North Florida and just south of a huge swampy area. So normally they do a radius about 50 miles around the town. Some of them they do 25, some of them do 75 based on what plane. I advocate to get a fly-off airport a little bit further south so that we don't have to go and fly in the swamp, because you don't want to go in where there's nobody around. So
Sure.
We come up with a different fly-off area based on population and available airports around us.
And let's dive into that deeper on another
Okay.
time. Like, I know you do this often,
Uh-huh.
so we could do a return trip and maybe
Okay.
like after you've done it, go after what you've done
Okay.
and set up the whole process
Okay.
of doing the first flight and picking your, basically like if you're flight training, your practice area, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sounds
All
good.
right. All right, so that's kind of wrapping it up for what you need, and I will put a link in the description below and on the video here of where to find all these little booklets and pamphlets and the checklist and so forth through EAA and other areas, and also a link to be able to talk to Herman if you'd like to get in touch with him, to have him work with you on either builder assist or what do we call this, the 90% done, 90% to go,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And getting it into the air. But otherwise, I think we should do a return trip when you have one of these ready to fly, and we can go over that process with everybody as well.
That's great. So technically we should be pretty quick with that one, and we have 1, 2, 3 more in the pipeline. So yeah, we hope to get this year a couple of planes to go.
Get them into the air the first time.
Yeah, get them in the air. Do some test flying.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks for being here. Yeah, whenever there's a question, people can call. Send me an email is the easiest, and then we'll set up a call appointment if they want to talk about it. But
And you're at wheelsandwings.net.
wheelsandwings.net. Yes, Lake City, Florida, Cannon Creek Air Park.
Thanks for joining us in this episode of the Experimental Aircraft channel. This is the perfect time to subscribe, like this video, and hit that bell so you don't miss our next episode. And consider becoming a patron, like many have done here on patreon.com. And thank you to our co-pilot status patrons, Mike Babcock and Zach Newsom. Catch you in the next one.